All right, let's dive in, shall we? Today we're tackling something you guys specifically requested, influencer marketing. Now we're going deeper than just, what it is. We're getting into the why. Why is it such a big deal for businesses today? But okay, real quick, in case someone's new to all this, when we say influencer marketing, we're talking about someone with a following online. Could be anyone, really, like your aunt who's obsessed with knitting and has a few thousand followers, all the way up to, like, mega celebrities. And they use that platform to talk about a product or a service, but here's the thing, it's not just a straight-up ad read, right? They make it part of their usual content so it feels, I don't know, more natural, more organic is what everyone says. But get this, the whole idea is actually way older than you might think.
It's true. We've seen this for centuries, really. Think about like royal families back in the day. They used specific tailors or jewelers, and those businesses got that royal stamp of approval. It's always been about, well, leveraging someone's influence to influence buyers. It's just a little more sophisticated these days, I guess.
Right. It's word of mouth, but with, like, digital megaphones.
Right.
And brands are seeing major returns. There's this one study by Media Cakes, and they found that almost 90%, a whopping 89% to be exact, of marketers said their ROI from influencer marketing was as good or better than their other marketing stuff. Why is that?
Trust is a big factor.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Think about it. Whose recommendations do you really listen to? A friend who's like raving about that new coffee shop they tried, or some random ad that pops up on your screen?
Totally. It's like having a friend with amazing taste, but instead of telling you about something awesome, they're telling their entire online world, which could be millions of people.
That's where it gets really interesting, right? It's targeted. Brands can work with influencers who are already talking to their target audience.
Exactly. It's not just throwing things out there and hoping they stick. This is strategic.
It's like they're having a conversation that's already relevant to the people listening.
And we can't forget the content part of it all. Influencers, they know how to get those likes and comments. They know what's cool right now, what actually works to grab people's attention. And all that, the likes, the shares, the comments, it all helps with SEO too.
It's like a boost for their online presence.
Exactly.
And it can help brands break into totally new markets, too. The right partnership can put them in front of people they might never have reached otherwise.
Okay, so that's the super positive side of all this. But let's be real, there are always two sides to everything, right? There's some downsides too, things brands need to be cautious about.
Oh, absolutely. There are definitely risks involved. One of the biggest is control. Or maybe lack of control is a better way to put it. When you're working with an influencer, you're handing over some of your brand's message to someone else.
Right. It's like throwing a party and letting your friend be the DJ. They might play some great stuff, but what if you suddenly get a Barry Manilow song when you least expect it?
Exactly. Influencers have their own style, their own voice, and it's not always going to be spot on with what the brand wants to say.
And then there's the big question of authenticity. Are they actually into this product? Or are they just in it for the money? Today's consumers are smart. They can tell when something's fake.
And if they feel like they're being constantly sold to, it backfires. It hurts the influencer and the brand.
Totally. It's that whole sellout thing. No one wants to feel like they're being played.
And then there's always the risk of dot scandal.
Ah, yes. The influencer scandal. A classic. One wrong tweet, one photo that maybe shouldn't have been posted, and suddenly it's a PR nightmare for the brand. Makes you wonder if traditional advertising is safer sometimes. Like, at least with a billboard, you know roughly how many people are seeing it, right? With influencer marketing, it's not as clear-cut.
That's a good point. It's tougher to measure the direct results. It's not always easy to say, okay, this campaign led to this many sales, and that ties into another risk, putting all your eggs in one basket. If a brand relies too much on influencers, what happens if that influencer's audience loses interest? Or the whole platform falls out of fashion?
Right, it's risky. But okay, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about some of the more interesting stuff we found.
You mean like the whole rise of micro-influencers?
Yes, these are people with smaller followings, but they're super dedicated, often very specific niches, like that faction blogger with a small but incredibly loyal audience, or a tech reviewer known for their super honest opinions. And this is where it gets really interesting. Research from Markerly found that these micro-influencers, they actually get way higher engagement than those huge accounts with millions and millions of followers.
It all comes back to that sense of community. Micro-influencers usually have a closer connection with their audience. It feels more personal, you know? It's less celebrity you'll never meet and more friend giving you advice.
Speaking of trust, can we talk about the big problem in the room? Fake followers.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge issue.
Some studies say that something like 30% of followers on social media could be totally fake.
It's all about quantity over quality. Some influencers try to seem more influential than they are, so they buy followers or use bots to inflate their numbers. And that creates this whole illusion of engagement, which is really misleading, especially for brands.
So how do you avoid that? How do you make sure you're working with the right influencers?
That is the question, isn't it?
That really is the question, right? Like, how do you cut through all the noise and find those partnerships that are actually worth it?
It takes some serious digging, that's for sure. You can't just look at follower count. You have to go deeper, look at the engagement. Are people actually interacting? Are they leaving real comments, having conversations, sharing their own experiences? Because that tells you way more than just a number.
Yeah, it's like, are people actually engaged? Or are they just scrolling past?
Exactly. And that genuine connection, it's even more important now with all this video content. TikTok, Reels, those short videos, that's where it's at for influencer marketing these days.
It's true. It's like everything's gotten faster, more visual.
Yeah.
But even with all that, you still need that authenticity, right?
Oh, absolutely. More than ever, I'd say.
People can totally tell if you're faking it in a video. A fake smile just doesn't fly.
It's true. People, especially younger audiences, they can spot that from a mile away. They want to see the real person, not just some curated perfect image.
Which I think takes us back to why influencer marketing can be so effective. It's that power of storytelling. But it has to be authentic. It can't just be about selling a product. It's about connecting with people.
It's about building those relationships that actually last.
Okay, so we talked about fake followers. What are some things brands and just everyday people can watch out for? How can we avoid getting tricked?
Good question. One thing is look for those sudden spikes in followers. Real growth usually happens more gradually.
Okay, that makes sense.
Also, pay attention to the types of comments they're getting. Are they all generic, like great post or love this repeated a million times? Or are people actually saying something real, something specific?
So, like, are there actual conversations happening?
Yeah. Another thing is the engagement rate. That's how many likes, comments, shares they get compared to their follower count. If it seems really low, like they have millions of followers, but almost no one interacts with their posts, that's a red flag.
Wow, so there's a lot to watch out for. It's like you need to be an influencer detective. You mentioned FTC guidelines earlier. What are those all about?
Oh, right. So the FTC, that's the Federal Trade Commission, they have rules about influencer marketing. It's all about being transparent with consumers.
Okay.
Influencers have to disclose when they're being paid to promote something.
So no more sneaking in sponsored posts and hoping no one notices.
Exactly. The FTC wants to make sure people know when they're seeing an ad, even if it's disguised as a regular post.
Transparency is key.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've covered a lot about where things are now. What about the future of influencer marketing? What's coming next?
One trend we're seeing more and more is influencers starting their own brands.
Oh, wow.
They already have the audience, they have that built-in trust, so it's a natural next step.
It's like they're going from promoting other people's stuff to becoming the brand themselves.
Exactly. And another big thing is social responsibility. Consumers, especially younger ones, they want to support brands and influencers that care about the same things they do.
That makes sense. Right. They've put in the work to build that connection, so why not take it to the next level?
Exactly. And it's not just about making money either. We're seeing a lot more emphasis on social responsibility these days.
Oh, yeah, that's huge now.
Consumers, especially younger generations, they're drawn to brands and influencers that actually stand for something, whether it's sustainability, social justice, things like that.
So it's not just about looking good online anymore. It's about doing good, too.
Exactly. It's about purpose-driven marketing. Consumers want to feel good about where they spend their money. They want to support businesses that align with their values.
Totally. Okay, so we talked about video being big, but what about the future of video? Are we all going to be hanging out in the metaverse, following holographic influencers around?
Well, the metaverse is definitely interesting, and it could be a game changer for influencer marketing.
Right.
Imagine attending a virtual concert with your favorite musician, or maybe getting styling tips from a fashion influencer, all in the metaverse. It's got potential for sure.
That actually sounds pretty cool. Even with all the tech stuff, I think it always comes back to authenticity, doesn't it?
100%. No matter how advanced things get, people can spot a fake.
Yeah.
It's about being real, showing your true self.
Being genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, maybe not taking yourself too seriously. Which brings us back to you, dear listener. We've covered so much ground today. From the history of influencer marketing to the potential downsides, the trends, everything.
We talked about how it's gone from just basic celebrity endorsements to this massive industry built on, really, the power of connection.
So whether you're a brand trying to find the perfect influencer to work with, or you're just a consumer trying to make sense of it all, remember to be careful. Do your research and look for those genuine connections.
Because those are the relationships that really matter.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. As consumers, we actually have a lot of power. By supporting authentic voices and calling out the fakes, we can make the online world a little bit better for everyone. Until next time, happy diving.